The video that you just watched captured the exact moment that the IDF struck a tent camp for displaced Palestinians. It was right next to a school in East Khan Younis, and 31 people, at least 31 people, have been reported dead as a result of that attack. Now, dozens more were injured. Dr. Mohammed Sakr, Director General of Nursing at Nasser Hospital, said in a phone interview on Wednesday that 56 people had been wounded. Most of them, as always, were children and women. And unfortunately, nearly 10 cases of amputation among them, hands and feet completely blown off. I mean, I get that now the US electorate is super distracted with Biden-related news. But what had been happening in Gaza, all of those horrific incidents that we had been reporting on and continue to report on, they're still happening. They didn't stop. There is no ceasefire. Netanyahu very clearly is not interested in a ceasefire and does not engage in good faith when these ceasefire negotiations happen. And John, I want to really emphasize that these are Palestinians who had been displaced, and they keep getting displaced repeatedly. I mean, just shuffled around again and again.
Yep.
More and more civilians killed over and over. The civilian death toll increasing, and we are not changing course at all here in the United States. We are still fully on board with what the Israeli government is doing. We're still arming the IDF as they are committing these atrocities.
Yeah, and you mentioned before we got into this story, there was a comment about like, is Biden seeing the photos? Is he seeing, how real this is? And honestly, who knows? Like, who knows what his level of understanding of this is? Who knows if it would matter? Maybe you replace him with some other centrist and they would do the exact same thing. Hands off Israel, the IDF can do literally whatever they want. I don't know. But it certainly doesn't seem as if this is the sort of thing that's like firing up Joe Biden to do something about it. And he's a guy, for all of his faults, that at least in the past, occasionally on certain topics, he does seem to have some empathy on topics like drugs and cancer and those sorts of things. This is the sort of thing that in theory could get him fired up to do something, but it's clearly not going to. And you see an event like this, and I just think, like, imagine, go back like a year, like we're before October 7th, we're not in this conflict. If somehow Hamas, which doesn't have planes and doesn't have bombs like this or whatever, let's say hypothetically they'd been able to bomb a residential complex in Israel, and this exact thing had happened, but Hamas did it to Israel. Just this one thing, it would be everywhere, it would be all we're talking about. Oh my God,
right.
What Hamas has done. But in our situation, it comes after hundreds of days of similar sorts of things. And as devastating as this is, and you're being responsible by doing a segment on it, and you are one of the few who will actually watch a video like this, because most people won't even do that, you will not remember this individual attack in 2 weeks. Understandably so, because there will be others like it. As you're gonna allude to, there's been multiple other schools and residential complexes that have been bombed just in the last week. And so if it were in the other direction, this one thing, what God knows what it would lead to. But in this case, the IDF's like, yeah, we'll look into it. We're seeing what's happening, and then they're gonna move on with their lives, and we're angry, but eventually we'll have to move on, and it'll be replaced by more and more.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's kind of killed me inside covering the story is how you have, not all people, I think that most people see the humanity of civilians on both sides, okay? And I genuinely believe that. I think most people are good and most people value human life and want to protect human life and see civilians as innocent and should be protected, okay? But there are some vocal individuals who seem to want to dehumanize civilians on either side, and certainly in America especially. The reason why we cover the dehumanization of Palestinians more is because our government engages in that dehumanization, right? If the same thing were happening to Israeli civilians, I would be similarly outraged. Okay, similarly outraged, because I don't see Israeli civilians as less important or less human than Palestinian civilians. But what infuriates me is how on a daily basis, this government of ours aids and abets the slaughter of innocent people and then just regurgitates the same BS talking points from the Israeli government. So what did the Israeli government have to say about this incident? Okay, the same thing they say about every horrific incident that they're involved in. Every horrific drone strike, bombing that leads to dozens of innocent people getting killed, most of whom are women and children. Okay, so this time around, same thing. The IDF claims that they targeted a Hamas member who was involved in October 7th. But they didn't release the identity of the alleged Hamas member. No details about who this person allegedly is. They also allege that they're going to look into reports that civilians were harmed. Really? We're gonna keep just repeating that line for them as if it means anything? Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
They'll look into it is already like, shut up with your look into it. Like we're done, you've been looking into stuff for months. Nothing has happened, nothing has changed. That reports that they might have been harmed. Like that's just spitting in the face. Like you can see it, it's there. You can literally see that it happened.
This was the 4th attack on or near to schools sheltering displaced people in 4 days. 4th attack in 4 days. That war in Gaza has not slowed down. The IDF's bombardments has not slowed down. It is still happening. And so when I hear Blue MAGA talk about like, but you're not necessarily voting for Biden who's experiencing cognitive decline. Okay, you're voting for his cabinet. Yeah, I'm not really impressed with his cabinet. Let me be clear about that. I did not elect Anthony Blinken, okay, to be commander-in-chief.
Nor would you.
Nor would I. No, I can't stand him.
If it were up to that, no.
Okay, Anthony Blinken, who founded West Exec Advisors, which is basically a consulting firm that is able to take advantage of these tricky pizzicky loopholes so they don't have to disclose who their clients are. They don't have to register as foreign agents, even if they're doing work on behalf of foreign governments like Israel, okay? This guy, Anthony Blinken, has all sorts of conflicts of interest. And it's underreported, no one talks about it, but look into that. West Exec Advisors. Okay, but let me continue on with this story. I just wanna note that there's also a shortage of hospital beds because the hospitals have been destroyed, bombed. There's obviously a lack of humanitarian aid, including medical supplies necessary to, at least use anesthesia as children are having their limbs amputated. Oh God, it's just so gross. And I do want to just talk about the evacuation orders because as I said earlier, Palestinians keep getting displaced again and again and again and again. If they're fortunate enough to not get killed through the IDF bombings, well, they don't have homes now. Most of their homes have been destroyed and they keep getting displaced from one tent encampment to another. So the IDF has been telling residents of Gaza City to evacuate their homes, which marks the 2nd time that they've been forced to do so. The first time was in October at the very beginning of the war. An anonymous Gaza City resident told Haaretz, an Israeli publication, at the start of the war, we had somewhere to flee, mostly to the center of the Gaza Strip and also to the south. And people could find shelter in all kinds of places, including in schools and public buildings in the city. But now everything is destroyed from the north to the south. And if there is still some place that is relatively quiet, it is completely packed with people in tents like sardines. And as they've mentioned a million times before, Israel, of course, has this ridiculous goal of wiping out Hamas. I say it's a ridiculous goal because it's just not realistic. It's not gonna happen. And it's not just me saying that. Why don't you take a look at a spokesman for the IDF who says the same thing?
Israel's prime minister has vowed total victory over Hamas, but the military taking a more sober view. It seems that Hamas is preparing to fight a very long insurgency. They're digging in, they're recruiting more people.
Hamas will remain with the ambition to be a terror organization. Will you and me be talking 5 years from now about Hamas as a terror organization in Gaza? The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. And with Netanyahu continuing the military assault in Gaza, basically what just happened with the latest bombing that we're talking about, it's hurting the possibility of a ceasefire because Hamas, John, had actually agreed to loosen some of their demands when it comes to a ceasefire deal. And so there was some hope that they were getting closer to a ceasefire deal, but because of the latest airstrike, Hamas has stated that the attack could reset the negotiation process to square one. And the longer that this war drags on, the more innocent people get killed. Israeli attacks in Gaza have since killed 38,295 Palestinians and injured another 88,241 people, according to the Ministry of Health. And I should note that that is an underestimate because it does not include the bodies that remain under the rubble. So the death toll is likely higher. And recently the Lancet put out a report indicating that because of famine, over 100,000 Palestinians are likely going to die as a result of this war. The number could be even higher than that. Yeah. And so it's just horrific, horrific news. And it does not give me confidence, John, to know that this current government is being led by a president who is experiencing mental decline. I don't know how involved he is in the decision making when it comes to Gaza. And this is all playing out with the American government funding it. And it brings me deep shame to know that our government is aiding and abetting what's happening in Gaza.
Well, it's supplying literally the bombs used in these attacks.
Yep.
We make the bombs that destroy schools and hospitals.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm depressed. I'm depressed in a wider sense, I guess, in that, as I sort of alluded to earlier, I don't even know if it would matter if he was more on his game. I don't know if it would matter if he was replaced by Harris or if Buttigieg stepped in or if suddenly it was Whitmer. Or if they're replaced by Trump. I mean, there's gradations, it's a spectrum, but I don't know if any of those people would have it as anything like their primary goal that we have to end this thing. Because it doesn't seem like the will or the interest is there on the part of Israel. And honestly, why would it be? Generally, wars come to an end because of joint suffering. But when you're just destroying another country, and other than a little bit of bad press internationally, you suffer no harm as a result. At least right now, you're generating terrorists that will wreak havoc for decades to come. And I think on some level they understand that, and honestly will use that in the future. But if you're not suffering any actual harm right now, why rush? What do you need the ceasefire for at that point? It's not even like you're going through all your stockpiles of weapons. They're being provided by the United States and other countries and funding for it. So not to say that there aren't some people in the Israeli government, obviously there are. We see them advocating for it, but they don't have the majority of the power right now.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a young Turk.